Hey guys, Ivan here, and in today's video we get a couple of very interesting bodybuilding updates. The first one is from Nick Walker with an update of his legs. And you guys know that as far as body parts, that's Nick's weakest body part. And recently he started growing again. For some reason, as he says, he lost a lot of muscle during his prep for the Mr. Olympia. How did that happen? Don't ask me. He was like 280 at the end of it, and he didn't lose weight, but he lost muscle underneath. I guess the only explanation would be that his gear was actually fake and he got a better source now, but I don't know. Anyways, here we can see his legs, and also you can see the comments basically on every single post of Nick Walker. One says, yeah, that's what you're good at, Instagram. Bro loves to yap. The next one is kind of more positive. It says, we walking and ain't talking anymore. But overall, basically on every post he makes, or every time I make a video about him, there is a whole bunch of negative comments. People are still not letting go. What happened this year, him pulling out of Mr. Olympia. I don't know for how long will this last. Usually these things don't last this long, but people are not letting go of it. I guess it's gonna take people a little bit longer to forget that he skipped that Mr. Olympia, and I'm pretty sure after he does a show and does well and wins, things are gonna change, unless it's a controversial win and he barely wins like the New York Pro. So if Nick wants to, get his fans back, get back the respect of the fans, and if he wants to regain his integrity, basically he needs to do really well at the next show he does. And he plans on doing multiple shows, not just one show. He kind of wants to compete more often, kind of do something like Samson Daura is doing. So I'm pretty sure next year people are going to forget all about this year and the year before, him pulling out of two Mr. Olympias and also not looking his best at the New York Pro. But in order to make this shift with his fans, he needs to actually look good. I mean, actually, not just good. He needs to look insane. He needs to look much, much better than ever before if he wants people to really love him again. So he needs to work on improving certain body parts, certain parts of his physique, like his midsection, and the big one will be his legs, his quads. Now we know he's working with Kyle Wilkes. He has a new coach. How will this play out? We still have to wait and see how good of a job will Kyle Wilkes do with Nick Walker. But we also know that Nick is working closely with Jared Feather, and that's kind of the guy you should go with today, in this day and age. I mean, Charles Glass was awesome back in the day, but he's getting too old, and like his techniques and his philosophies are very, very old school. I don't want to say outdated. Then you have also Chris Psycho Lewis, who is basically a student of Charles Glass. Then you have also Milos Sarcev with his giant sets, but he's also like in his 60s. So we have a couple of new school guys, and Jared Feather is one of them. And I think with the help of Jared and his knowledge, also in combination with the new coach, Kyle Wilkes, and also Jared and Kyle are sort of working together, making everything fit, the diet, the gear, and the training. And I think with this new team, this new camp that Nick has, I think he's going to make progress. And I think he's more driven than ever. He has something to prove again. And I think all this drive and all this negative energy, I think he's going to utilize it and actually get better than ever. As far as his legs right now, are they bigger? I think they are getting better. I think they are improving. I think they are moving in the right direction. But it's going to take him a little bit longer to actually make some significant improvement. It's not going to happen overnight. He just started his new cycle, and that's why he is not going to be doing the Arnold Classic, because he wants to do something later in the year so he can actually have more time to improve, to get his midsection in better control and to improve the legs. And that's basically all he needs to do, and get in condition, of course. If he nails those three things, he's going to be very, very good again. And I would say one of the top 3 guys in the Mr. Olympia. If everything goes well for Nick Walker next year, I think I can see him in the top 3 call-out at the Mr. Olympia with Samson Daura and Martin Fitzwater. Alright, since we're talking about the legs, we also got a physique update, a leg update, basically, from Mike Sommerfeld. Now, this guy is a classic guy, right? Who would have thought? When you look at him right here in the off-season, He doesn't look like a classic guy at all. He doesn't look like he's doing classic physique. He definitely looks like a bodybuilder. I mean, I'm competing in classic physique. In a couple of weeks, I'm going to be competing, trying to get my pro card. But I'm looking at this and I'm thinking like, man, I have a long way to go to get to this level of muscularity. It's one thing winning a pro card, but being a pro, a top pro like this, man, this is another level. Look at the size of his freaking legs. This is kind of discouraging, to be honest. Like, when Classic Physique came out back in 2016, I was like, oh, thank God, I can't do open bodybuilding. I can do this smaller division. But these guys are not small at all. I mean, yeah, they're not the size of open bodybuilders, but they're not that far behind. I mean, look at the Mike's legs right here and tell me they are not bigger than Nick's legs from the front. I mean, maybe if Nick stood next to Mike right here, maybe it would look different, but I don't know. Maybe it actually wouldn't. I mean, I wish this guy was doing Prague Pro as well. If what Tyler Mannion was saying is true, if he wasn't just hyping up Mike Sommerfeld because he's the next favorite to win the Classic Physique, if what he was saying is true, if it was actually that close between him and Chris Bumstead, I would say in the open division, if Mike blew up and showed up, much bigger than he was in Classic Physique at Mr. Olympia, maybe he would stack up even better with the open guys. And it seems like Tyler was onto something when he said that Mike has the best legs in the Pro League in Classic Physique. I mean, his legs are definitely looking super massive, especially right now, after he rebounded a little, after he started eating again. Man, his legs are looking freaking round and massive. Now, from the side and from the back, it's not as good as from the front. He definitely doesn't have the biggest hamstrings, and Nick would destroy him in the hamstrings department. Nick, in my opinion, has probably the best hamstrings. Well, let's say one of the biggest, the best hamstrings in the history of bodybuilding. That's the way I see it. Nick has freaking huge hamstrings. And I mean, let's not even talk about the upper body. I'm not comparing Mike to Nick, like size-wise, whole physique-wise. Of course, Nick's upper body is one of the biggest today, one of the biggest of all time, really. But just the quads. Mike's quads are freaking huge. Again, it's a shame we won't see him at the Prague Pro this year, but who the hell knows? In a couple of years, I'm pretty sure we're gonna see this guy in an open show, maybe like after the Mr. Olympia or after, I don't know, the Arnold Classic, or like mid-season he decides to try and do an open show just for fun. I would love to see him in the open or 212, just bodybuilding, because I think he has the potential to be great in bodybuilding as well. What do you guys think? Alright, then lastly, we got a new physique update from Chris Bumstead. He's showing us his back, his conditioning in the back, and his Christmas tree. The way his spinal erectors and his lats are shaped, his back is literally forming a perfect looking Christmas tree. I mean, how crazy is this? This guy is so perfect structurally, and he even has a perfect looking Christmas tree on his back. I mean, this is just funny. Now, in the new podcast Sibam did with Fuad, he said that his weight is back down to 248. So I guess what I was trying to predict is not gonna happen. I kinda thought Chris is gonna be like 260 or above 260 on stage, because I've seen that happen with my guys, with guys from Serbia over here who compete. Like when they don't have the classic weight cap, they show up in bodybuilding shows much heavier. But it seems like Chris is gonna try and just, show up in the same condition he was at the Mr. Olympia, just without sacrificing any muscle. So what he said basically is that he is back to what he was weight-wise like a couple of weeks before the Mr. Olympia, before he actually had to lose muscle to make the weight. So he's not gonna try and go for some crazy level of fullness. At least that's what he thinks. Maybe Hani Rambert has different plans, but his weight right now is relatively low. I mean, he was 242 on the stage in Classic Physique. He's only 6 pounds up. 6 pounds, guys. What is that? That's like 2.5 kilos. That's nothing. That's pretty much, you can gain that much in one day from just eating a little bit more and drinking some water. So 6 pounds is really not a lot. Maybe if he does a whole completely new peak week protocol and just, I don't know, gets super full, maybe he's gonna be a little bit heavier. But yeah, it's not gonna be like a completely new Chris Bumstead. It's gonna be a little bit fuller, a little bit more fresh looking, a little bit bigger Chris, but it's not gonna be like a new, completely new, monstrous looking CBum, unfortunately. If I was his coach, I would probably go for that. I would just blow him up as much as possible, dry him out in the last moment, and like let him go on that stage as big as full as possible at like 260, 265, honestly. But they're going for something much safer, good conditioning, a little bit better fullness and freshness, and it's gonna look good, I'm sure. But you know, with that weight and his height, yeah, it's hard for me now to imagine him beating Martin Fitzwater. But since Akeem Williams and Rafael Brandao are not doing the show, the next guy Chris needs to face is Sean Clarita, who is half the height of CBum, and then also Horse MD, who really didn't blow our minds at Romania Pro this past weekend. And I mean, there is Amir Omeragic. I don't know about him, but yeah, I think Chris is gonna be, you know, top 2 best case scenario. Unless he does something crazy with a peak week, unless Hani really brings him in much bigger and fuller than ever, yeah, it's hard for me to imagine him beating Martin Fitzwater at this point. But you guys tell me whatever you think down below in the comment section. If you guys enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up. For more content about bodybuilding and the coverage of the Prague Pro as well, of course, subscribe to this channel, guys. Thank you so much for watching. See you soon. All the best and bye-bye.